Alright, today we are talking about multiplying and dividing fractions. The good news is when it comes to fractions, the toughest operations are addition and subtraction, which is what we did the last 2 days. More good news, multiplication and division is pretty much the same thing. The rule with multiplying is simple. It's just top times top, bottom times bottom. Yes, it's that simple. Check it out. If we were simplifying 1/3 times 2/5, you simply do 1 times 2, which is 2. You do 3 times 5, which is 15. You simplify that as far as you can, but that's your answer. That's why this is pretty easy. Alright. Dividing fractions is simple, and you might want to write this down. It is keep, change, flip. Now, that does not mean that you're done, but keep, change, flip tells you what to do to set it up. So, it means you keep the first fraction the same, you change your division into multiplication, and then you flip your second fraction. Keep the first, change the multiplication, flip your second fraction. Now that we're in multiplication, it's top times top, bottom times bottom, and that would be your answer. And just for proof, I'm going to pull out this calculator just to show you that 3/7 divided by 1/2 is 6/7. So again, that's just for the sake of showing you that I wasn't lying to you or that anything crazy is going on. But again, keep, change, flip for division. Make sure you write that down and practice it. And then when you multiply, it's just top by top, bottom by bottom. There is a catch in both situations. Otherwise, we could end our practice now. Simplifying is definitely necessary, either in the beginning or at the end, or both, which is usually what you'll end up doing. You'll do it in the beginning to catch what you can see, and you'll do it at the end to make sure that everything is done. Just make sure you ask about the process that I'm about to explain. There are key parts to it that must be understood in order to be used appropriately. So let's start the actual lesson here in terms of what it should be, which is mainly about simplifying and reducing fractions. We've been told all fractions must be simplified or reduced completely. This means we must learn to identify values that can be divided. It does help if you have a solid grasp on your multiplication tables, but there are some things that help. If you see even numbers, it means you can divide them by 2. So if you're looking at 10/82, 10 is even, 82 is even, it means you can divide by 2. Numbers are divisible by 3 if the sum of their digits is divisible by 3. What does that mean? It means the number 111 is divisible by 3 because 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3, and 3 can be divided by 3. The number 222 can be divided by 3 because 2 plus 2 plus 2 is 6, and 6 can be divided by 3. The number 96 can be divided by 3 because 9 plus 6 is 15, and 15 can be divided by 3. The number 107 is not divided by 3 because 1 plus 0 is 1 plus 7 makes 8, and you cannot divide 8 by 3. So again, if you're checking 3, that's what you do. Numbers are divisible by 5 if they end in 5 or 0. So anything that ends in 5 or 0 can be divided by 5 overall. And the rule for 9 is the same as the rule for 3. So if the values you add up to be something like 9, 18, 27, 36, or so on, that means you can divide them by 9. All right. We will use some of these concepts as we go through the discussion, but for now, let's just review the process of simplifying fractions by removing common factors. Again, 20/24, to me, what I see here is that both of these are even. And because they're both even, it means I can divide both of them by 2 to get 10/12. But looking at 10/12, both of these are even, so I can divide them by 2 again, which ends up as 5/6. And that would be how you would simplify that fraction. Okay? Looking at 42 and 30. 42 and 30 are both even, so that means I can divide them both by 2, which means I can cut them both in half. 42 cut in half is 21, 30 cut in half is 15. Now they're not even anymore, but let's check the 3's. 2 plus 1 is 3. That works. 1 plus 5 is 6. That works. Again, 3 is divisible by 3. 6 is divisible by 3, which means I can probably divide both of these by 3. 21 divided by 3 is 7. 15 divided by 3 is 5. And there is your simplified fraction. So you have to make sure you work on that skill set so you know what's going on. Otherwise, it's going to be kind of crazy. But now that we've seen the power of factoring numbers out, let's put that idea together with our rules of multiplication so we can try to get better at that for this week. If we were asked to multiply the following values, what do you notice? Well, first we should notice that our multiplication would lead to very large numbers. 10 times 18 is at least 180. That's 600 and something, might be 700 something, who knows. But either way, this would lead us to look for another way to getting the job done, because again, if the numbers are large, sure, it's fine, but we'd rather not have to get large numbers. So what we could do is consider the rule of multiplication, which is top times top, bottom times bottom. And what that means is that everything on top is going to be put together anyway, and everything on the bottom is going to be put together anyway, and it would end off looking something like this. So 10 and 18 would end up on the top, 27 and 25 would end up on the bottom. And now that we have one fraction only, it means we can apply our rule of removing factors. So looking at it, these two, because they are in the same fraction now, can be both divided by 5, which means 10 divided by 5 turns into 2, 25 divided by 5 turns into 5, and there's your new numbers. Well, when you look at 18 and 27, 1 plus 8 is 9, 2 plus 7 is 9. Both of these could be divided by 9, which means we can divide both of those. So again, 18 divided by 9 is 2, 27 divided by 9 is 3, and there's your two new numbers there. Once we've done that, all we have to do is top times top, which is 2 times 2, bottom times bottom, which is 15, getting our final answer. And notice that we did not have to deal with that huge fraction that we were possibly going to get into. You will not always be able to pull out a common factor. Sometimes you have to simplify or reduce your final answer. So again, always look for factors that can be removed before starting your work. Before stopping your work. Also, your actual work will not need to be rewritten into one fraction. You can simply remove factors from the original, as I'm about to be showing you right now. So, looking at this problem here, 60 over 25 times 35 over 28. The first thing I would do is look at the first fraction and say, is there anything I can take out of 60 and 25? Well, I believe that ends in 0, that ends in 5, so I can take out a 5. If you look at a clock, how many 5s make 60 minutes? That would be 12. So here's what you can do. I know I'm dividing by 5. 60 divided by 5 turns into 12. 25 divided by 5 turns into 5. Notice how I don't need to do a lot of work to keep myself organized. Then I would look at this, 35 and 28. From what I remember, 28 7. 7 times 5 is 35, so therefore I can divide these both by 7. 35 divided by 7 is 5. 28 divided by 7 is 4. But you can also go diagonally, because remember, anything on top can cross with anything on the bottom. 12 and 4 are both divisible by 4. So therefore that 4 would turn into a 1, because 4 divided by 4 is 1. 12 divided by 4 is 3. Both of our 5s can be divided by 5, which means that that pretty much is a 1, and that is a 1. And in the end, what we're looking at is 3 times 1, which is 3. 1 times 1, which is 1, and anything divided by 1 is itself. So after all that work, we end up with a nice easy number like 3. All right. If you had a division problem, the thing about division is, remember, it's keep, change, flip. So we keep the first fraction the same. We change that into multiplication, and then we flip the second fraction. 18 and 75. I don't really see anything, although I could see something if I wanted to, but I'm not going to do that. 245 over 28. Let's say I don't see anything there, but I do see that both of these are even. 18 and 28 are both even, so I'm going to cut them in half. 18 cut in half is 9. 28 cut in half is 14. Now I'm going to say, well, 75 and 245 can both be divided by 5. So I'm going to actually do that. 5 goes into 7 once. 5 goes into 25 5 times with no remainder, so that's it. So that would be 15. 5 going into 245. 5 goes into 24 4 times. 5 goes into 45 9 times with no remainder, which means that this turns into 49. Alright. Now that the numbers are small, look at this. 9 and 15, they both can be divided by 3. Notice I couldn't see it in the 18 and 75, but now I can see 9 and 15, because 9 divided by 3 is 3. 15 divided by 3 is 5. That helps. Also, another thing I can see, because these numbers are smaller, is 49 and 14 both go into 7, which would make that a 7 and make that a 2. There's nothing else. Now 3 times 7 makes 21. 5 times 2 makes 10. Again, if you're practicing your fraction skills, you would say 10 Goes into 21 2 times before it passes, getting up to 20, which means that 1 would be left out of 10, and that would be your mixed number if you were converting. Again, you don't need to convert. It's just good for you to practice. So today what we're going to do is look at a pre-test to ensure you get an opportunity to ask about your issues. Please make sure you treat the next few minutes like a quiz so you can see what you actually remember, and then be sure to communicate your issues as I go over answers. Again, do not work on the extra practice side until you've completed the pre-test side. But outside of that, if you're at home, again, if you need to see that stuff, email me and I will gladly send you a PDF or copy of whatever we're doing in class. Good luck.